Welcome back to Checkpoint. It's exactly 54 minutes past. They're actually just 6 minutes to the top of the hour. We're glad you've stayed with us right here on KTN. Of course, I'm still engaging the United Kingdom High Commissioner to Kenya, NIC Hailey. Of course, we've been talking about matters corruption, and I promised earlier we're going to cross over to matters to do with Brexit. But before that, let's just one more thing about corruption, because we have, of course, a multi-agency sort of operation when it comes to dealing with corruption, and there have been fears that there are certain institutions that are working, together at the expense of some other government institutions. Case in point, the DCI and DPP are really working together really well, but there are people who feel like the EACC have been left out. From your own view, once again, what do you think are some of the loopholes, some of the gaps that Kenya needs to work on to make sure that they have some sort of watertight way of dealing with corruption?
I think you do need every bit of the system to work well together. You need good investigations among the police. Mm-hmm. You need strong prosecutions, as I've said. You need strong judges. And then you need things like the Asset Recovery Agency, these other institutions that are able to get their hands on the money to bring it back. So you do need everyone to work together. I understand there's a multi-agency task force that has been set up, and that is very welcome to have this cross-government approach. One of the things we did in the UK with the Serious Fraud Office, which was set up, I think, in the 1980s, was to build specialist investigators and specialist prosecutors all working together in the same organisation. Because these cases are quite complicated, and it's different from prosecuting a murder or an assault or something. You need to be able to understand how people move money around, how they store it away in offshore jurisdictions, how they commit procurement fraud, all of those things. So perhaps one thing to think about going forward is that intensified training and specialisation, if you like, maybe in bits of the judiciary, maybe in bits of the prosecutor or the investigator. But I think we're definitely seeing that multi-agency approach, which is really helping.
When speaking about specialised training, we've seen that happening in the security sector, where the UK and Kenya have been working together hand in hand. Do you think this is something that can be replicated when it comes to corruption as well, where officials can be trained, get further training? We
had recently the DCI and the DPP visited the UK with a number of law enforcement officials, and they saw the International Anti-Corruption Centre that we have built in the UK, which has many countries working together to look at these international financial flows, to look at how money gets moved around and how the evidence can be built around that. And we brought training courses here, as I said a bit earlier, along that whole chain of justice, from investigation and prosecution through to the judges. So we definitely want to do more of that training. But ultimately, you said before the break this made you pessimistic. I'm optimistic about this because there are so many good people in Kenya trying to do the right thing. And what it really needs now is that high-level push to continue and those convictions to start coming through. And I think the people of Kenya are ready to see the difference that can be made by all the efforts that are going on if we can get those cases through to conviction.
Well said. I think we're done with issues to do with corruption. Let's now cross over to Brexit. And this is what your Prime Minister said a while back when she was in Kenya, quote unquote, "As Britain prepares to leave the EU, we are committed to smooth transition and continuity in our trading relationship." It hasn't been very smooth as far as Brexit is concerned for the UK Prime Minister, especially now that she's facing a very crucial vote on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, the vote, you'll have to ask your correspondents in London how that's all going, because I'm too far away to give you the detailed politics. But what the Prime Minister has done is reached a deal with the European Union that, in her view, in my government's view, is the right deal for the UK and the right deal for Europe. And it gives us a lot of close economic integration. It gives us a lot of continuity. It is good for business. And my job is really to make sure that is right for Kenya and the UK, right? That's the little part that I'm trying to play.
Yes.
Now, when the Prime Minister was here, she gave a very clear guarantee when she was with the President in August that Kenya would retain its trading relationship with the UK as we leave the EU. At the moment, Kenya can export anything it wants, as long as it's not a weapon, anything to the UK free of tariffs and as much as it wants, so quota-free. It's what they call duty-free, quota-free. And she gave a commitment that will continue as we leave the EU, whatever the deal that we reach with the EU. Obviously, I hope that the deal that she is advocating this week will go through, but she has made that commitment that Kenya's trade will not be disrupted. And that's really important for Kenya, because thousands of people here are growing things and making things that you're exporting to the UK. Thousands of jobs depend on that. And it's really important for us as well, because 90% of our roses come from Kenya, half of our tea. Can you imagine, with Valentine's Day only 2 months away, what we're going to do if that all gets disrupted? So, and many British companies invested here, of course, are growing things and making things to export them to the UK. So she's been very clear on that commitment that there will be no disruption to Kenya's trade as we leave.
I think the fear with Kenyan traders, of course, you've explained well, is post-Brexit. I mean, there are going to be economic costs with regards to Brexit. Perhaps, your government is going to raise taxes and cut on expenditure. I mean, don't you think this is going to reach, Kenya as well as far as the aftershocks is concerned?
I don't think it's by any means a given that the kind of scenario you talk about is going to happen. I mean, Brexit is the separation of a particular institutional relationship we have with a particular set of European institutions. But it is not us turning our backs completely on Europe. We're going to be cooperating with Europe very closely in all sorts of ways after that. We're going to be signing new trade deals with countries around the world that will allow us to expand our markets. Our investors are going to be looking, I think, more beyond Europe, more towards places like this. I think that when the fact that the Prime Minister came here with 30 business people in her delegation, the fact that we announced £500 million, I'm trying to work that out in shillings and I can't do that at this time of night, but many billions of shillings of new British investment in Kenya during her visit. I think that is a sign also that we're looking for those economic partnerships that we have with countries like Kenya to get even stronger after Brexit. So I don't think people should be concluding that this is bad news for the UK and Kenya. I think this gives us a very strong platform to build on for the years ahead, and I'm certainly seeing a lot of interest in London in expanding those connections even more as we leave the European Union.
Well, we're done with Brexit. Let me now take you back to corruption once again, because this is a huge debate that everybody's talking about. And those who are, of course, against corruption, saying that they need to see the likes of the United Kingdom, the US, issue some sort of restriction, travel restriction, for example, on people who've been, implicated in mega scandals in Kenya. How soon are we going to see that?
And there's been such restrictions in place for some time. And there are people in Kenya that cannot travel to the United Kingdom because of their involvement in corruption. We have the right, of course, to grant visas to those we wish to come to the country and to refuse visas to those we don't wish. And as for any country around the world where people are guilty of egregious crimes, whether that's corruption or anything else, they will not be able to come to the United Kingdom. So that is already there.
Are there new people maybe you're looking for at the moment? Because there's several CEOs, managing directors of various parastatals who are facing, huge graft cases in court at the moment. Are there people you're looking out for?
They probably have bigger things on their minds than applying for a UK visa at the moment. And we never talk about individuals in that context. We never talk about individuals' immigration status. But as I say, I can say that there are people that we do not let into the country because of their involvement in this. And we want to bring the full force of our cooperation to bear in the investigations of people here in Kenya, so that where there is any UK connection, people salting money away or moving money to London, that also gets resolved very quickly.
Of course, we've already agreed earlier that corruption affects so many spheres of lives, especially in Kenya. At the moment, of course, the government has its own Big Four agenda, which touches on food security, manufacturing, all the other projects that the government has. Do you think this is going to be a big threat if, left unchecked?
I think if I understand the president rightly, the reason he's put corruption so high on the agenda is that he knows, and I certainly agree, that without dealing with corruption, the Big Four agenda cannot succeed to the extent that he wants it to. I mean, just look at NHIF. We have this ambition to roll out universal health care for every Kenyan. It's such a wonderful thing to protect every family from the risks and expenses of bad health. And yet we're seeing this corruption scandal at NHIF, where the contributions that workers are paying day by day, month by month, for the hard work that they do are, by the looks of it, certainly allegedly, being stolen. How tragic that is, how completely unacceptable that is. And the country cannot build the systems that it wants to build to protect people and to prosper if corruption is there. So I think we should probably stop talking about corruption as if it was some kind of technical, multi-syllable thing. We should just talk about theft. People are stealing.
It's pure theft.
It is theft. People are stealing from the Kenyan people. And they're stealing money that people have worked hard to earn, and money that people want to see improving their lives and developing the country. And that theft needs to come to an end if the Big Four is going to succeed, if the country is going to succeed.
And as we conclude this discussion, there's one viewer here who says it's good a thing we are seeing people being arrested and arraigned in court. However, only jail terms and recovery of assets will change people's perception that the government is committed to the fight against corruption. Once again, the issue is to do with, successive conviction has arisen again. I mean, do you think it's something that the government should seriously pursue to make sure that, these so-called big names are convicted, to make sure, to deter anybody else, from getting into corruption?
Well, I absolutely agree with your viewer. And I saw an opinion poll recently that asked Kenyans, do you think this campaign is serious? Do you think that it will make a difference? And if so, what's the test for you? And I think the majority of people who responded to that poll said the test is whether big people end up in jail. Now, I'm not, I don't have a view on who's guilty and who's not. That's the courts are going to work that out. I'm not in the middle of these investigations. But I think Kenyans know that there are some people in senior positions in this country who are stealing from the Kenyan people. And when those people end up going to jail, that's when we'll see that this campaign is really serious.
Of course, once again, for the purpose of record, we've already said that the lawyer, Qureshi, who has been hired by the DPP, is not a government project. He has just come here as a private citizen. I mean, don't you think such transfer of individual skills like lawyers and, investigators from your country can help perhaps these institutions get some sort of traction on fighting corruption?
I think Kenya's got a lot of very good lawyers.
And not lawyers,
there's a lot of law
investigators,
that goes on.
for example.
Investigators. As I said, one thing we have done is strengthen our investigative capacity here. So we have in the High Commission, within my staff, specialists in these investigations, and they are at the disposal of the Kenyan authorities. And the idea is whenever there's a UK link, now we can't investigate crimes in Kenya because we're not the Kenyan government, we're your friend and your partner, but it's not our country. So the investigations rightly belong to the Kenyan authorities. But whenever there's a UK connection or a UK link or a bit of money that's gone towards the UK that needs to be traced, that's what we're ready to do and to investigate and to help. Because many of these cases are international. And these big corruption cases, they often have international dimensions with money being moved around elsewhere. So we are ready to help.
Sure. And I'm sure as a country, you have your own interest in Kenya as far as, trade ties is concerned. I'm sure there are sectors that you are very much actively involved in, for example, education. I mean, when it comes to corruption, are there specific programs or initiatives that the United Kingdom is undertaking in Kenya?
So one of the things the Prime Minister announced when she was here was an initiative on business integrity. We want to help businesses navigate these issues of corruption. Because many British businesses come to me and they say, we'd like to invest, but at one point when we were exploring the options here in Kenya, somebody asked us for some money, or somebody said, well, it'd be easier for you if you just paid this guy. And at that point, they will say, we walked away, because they know that the legislation in the UK is so tough. If they get involved in any of that, they're going to go to jail back in the UK. So we are now, with this new initiative, working with businesses to help them find ways through this, to educate them on the risks, to help them be more alert to the risks, and ultimately to work with Kenyan businesses to provide more corruption-free channels, if you like, for that investment. It's really important that business champions this, because corruption isn't just going on in government in Kenya. Corruption is going on in business as well. And I hope that British investors can partner to help improve that environment for everybody.
UK's High Commissioner NIC Hailey, many thanks for your time and many thanks for your input. We do hope that the Kenyan authorities also listening are going to learn one or two things from how the United Kingdom is serious when it comes to matters corruption. We also do hope the DPP, the DCI, and of course the new incoming EACC CEO are going to do something to make sure that this vice is controlled in this country. And that has been our interview tonight on Checkpoint. And it's about time we take a very short break. But when we come back, we are going to tell you more, especially in the world of sports. We have some latest results from the English Premier League. Stay there.